Fulani! I love it. Good evening, my sisters and brothers, and to my Muslim sisters and brothers, assalamu alaikum. Alaikum salam. How y'all doing out there? You're looking great. We can all be very proud and very delighted that the powers that be who reign supreme in the Democratic Party view this as a dangerous gathering, and they are so very right. They view it as dangerous. It's so dangerous that they need FBI agents in disguise to take our pictures, and riot police with clubs ready in case we get out of hand. It is a dangerous gathering because it's always dangerous, brothers and sisters, for the servants of white corporate America when black folks and progressive folks get together to chart our agenda and to chart our course of action on our road to liberation. Very dangerous. But this is more than just a dangerous gathering. We're living in very dangerous times, and we have very serious choices to make in pursuit of our progressive agenda. Michael Dukakis and the Democratic Party bosses, or hacks, whichever you prefer, would like us to believe that the selection of Lloyd Bentsen, a businessman senator, for the #2 spot on the ticket was just business as usual, an attempt to balance the ticket, hard-nosed politics that, you know, we the people sometimes can't understand. They say that this insult is nothing for Reverend Jackson to get excited about. He's just being a sore loser. Even a black editorial writer for the Atlanta Journal and Constitution said that Jesse Jackson should accept defeat graciously. But what is gracious about having our people attacked and our movement undermined? What is gracious about having our leaders humiliated and our people made fun of? What is gracious about the selection of a Lloyd Bentsen? This Bentsen, a solid right-winger, by the way, who defeated George Bush in a 1970 Texas Senate race because he was more conservative than the Reaganite Bush, was no run-of-the-mill choice by the Democratic Party. In fact, one of the points that I've been making to the press this week is that George Bush doesn't have to go to the trouble of trying to choose a vice presidential candidate. Lloyd is so conservative, he and Mike can just share one vice president. You see, this Mr. Bentsen was put on the ticket to deliver a message on behalf of the insiders in the innermost circles of that white supremacist Democratic Party to us. A message to the African American people and to our progressive allies. It's a very clear message. It says, no matter how well you do, Jesse, no matter how carefully you play by the rules, there is no room in this party of big business for you and your people to have any influence whatsoever. Did we hear that message? No, sisters and brothers. The choice of this pro-Contra land baron, Bentsen, was not just any selection. It was not even the standard personal insult that rival politicians take macho pleasure in handing out to losers. It was a calculated insult. To Brother Jesse Jackson, to our people, to all of us, don't forget this was the year that the greatest number of votes by far went to the left-center coalition represented by Jackson and Dukakis. But the party ticket selected by the white corporate supremacists who control both the Republican and the Democratic parties, went to the center-right coalition of Dukakis and Benson. We did not choose that ticket. The Democratic Party bosses gave it to us. That ticket stinks. It's a loud statement by the Democratic Party's super rich, super white, super male, and super straight super delegates. A statement which is another attack in the war of the Democratic Party bosses against the alliance of African Americans and progressives who supported Reverend Jackson in the Democratic Party primaries. A very dangerous alliance from the point of view of the powers that be, who are heavily invested in keeping things under control in a time of mounting social and economic crisis. Reverend Jackson prides himself on having brought tens of thousands of black voters into the political process, many of them for the first time in 1984. This year, even more African Americans voted in the primaries. With Jesse, our people and other excluded peoples felt that they finally had a reason and not just the right to vote. You know what it means to have a reason to vote in this country? That's what people died in the streets of Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia. That's what they were dying for. Not just the right to vote, but a reason to vote. But the white supremacist Democratic Party went us one better. While Jesse was bringing out the rainbow vote, they were bringing out the racist vote. Despite the fact that many more black people voted in 1988 than in 1984, that was Jackson's game plan, the black-white ratio stayed the same. Indeed, in New York this year, the black vote made up a smaller percentage of the total vote than they did in 1984. This is something the Jackson forces did not count on, but that's how the racist Democratic Party works. That's how the party of big business is so constructed to retain political power in the hands of white corporate America. The Dukakis-Benson ticket is being touted by the Democrats' public relations boys as a duplicate of the winning Boston-Austin combination of Kennedy-Johnson that just barely beat Nixon and his aristocratic running mate, Henry Cabot Lodge, in 1960. They won that race by 200,000 votes. That ain't nothing, folks. So put that in the back of your head and keep it in mind. But in fact, if we want to see a replay of Kennedy-Johnson, who won second place, Johnson, at the Democrats' convention 28 years ago, a replay would have put Jesse Jackson on the ticket this year. In 1988, Jesse Jackson, who finished far ahead of the other primary runners and who has the second highest delegate count, is the runner-up, not Lloyd Benson. Benson delivered one vote, his own, in the primaries, and he got selected over the candidate who came in second. What kind of pragmatic politics is that? It is Reverend Jackson's extraordinary success at the polls that proves the validity of the two roads of better than one plan with which I began my independent campaign 16 months ago. You see, if Jesse had done poorly, or even just so-and-so, the Democrats would have been able to justify the exclusion of the rainbow from the ticket. They could have kept him off the platform by saying, Jesse, the American people The American electorate is not interested in what you've got to say. They just say, Jesse, you know, you ran a good run, a good race, but they don't want you. You have not earned a place on the ticket or a place on the platform for your agenda. But that's not what happened. In spite of all the pitfalls set up by the Democratic Party, that's not what happened. In spite of the fact that Time magazine was voting Reverend Jackson as the best-dressed presidential candidate, you can't get more racist or stoop more low than that. That's not what happened. In spite of the fact that the major media barely covered him and that those white party bosses ignored him until he socked it to the state of Michigan, that is not what happened. Jesse did quite well. The American voters came out and responded with enormous enthusiasm to this black-led, inclusive, social vision that Reverend Jesse Jackson articulated throughout his campaign. We responded so well, in fact, that any practical, these are their words, any pragmatic, that's another one of their words, any reasonable person would have expected Jesse to have a position of power, to have a position of major influence at that convention and in that party. But Jesse does not. Dukakis is running the convention from top to bottom. It is his, it's under his control. Jackson is still being treated like an outsider, despite having played by all the rules, their rules, and despite having done so very, very, very well. We need to learn something from all of this. Those folks, and it's a lot of them out here, you got to watch for them, who are seeking to herd the black-led rainbow voters as quickly as possible back into that Democratic Party fold, are insisting that what was important is that Reverend Jackson fought the good fight. Doesn't that make you nauseous? And now they're saying on national TV and all over the media, it's time to concede an honorable defeat. But the plain truth, brothers and sisters, is that the Democratic Party bosses are not willing to give Reverend Jackson, they're not willing to give the rainbow the respect that is our due. Reverend Jackson got more than 7 million votes during the primary season. He had 1,300 convention delegates, and Michael Dukakis would not even take the time or the 25 cents to call him on the telephone. We need to have a look at that. You know, I'm no novice to racism. I teach about it. I fight against it every day of my life. But there's still those moments when these crackers do something that sort of catches you off guard and you can feel it in your gut. When I watched our brother standing on national TV, making it clear that he had not been notified by Michael Dukakis about the choice of Lloyd Bentsen, that he found out when these reporters rushed him at the airport, I felt the humiliation that Jesse Jackson had to be feeling. As a black woman, I felt it to my very essence. And I got the message, because the message was that Michael Dukakis was going to bring Jesse Jackson and this movement to his knees. And as I watched that TV show, I said, sucker, no you won't. We ain't getting on our knees. We won't be put in our places. Because we got a surprise for you. 2 roads are better than one is no symbol. It was planned and schemed on from the very beginning so that when this very thing happened, we had a response to the Michael Dukakises of the Democratic Party. y'all with me? Fulani! So, the success of the Jackson campaign exposed the worst in the anti-progressive, white supremacist Democratic Party. That is why for 16 months I have argued that only the presence of the independent option could give the rainbow movement leverage at this very convention. That only an independent option could force the party bosses to yield us a platform and a ticket to our liking. Now, many people in the Jackson campaign have not welcomed the presence of the independent rainbow. Brothers and sisters, they have talked about me bad. They have rejected the leverage that only outside pressure could bring to bear. And they, therefore, not me, have weakened Reverend Jackson's position, a situation that the Dukakis forces are only too happy to take advantage of. So I want to use this occasion of us being here together tonight to speak directly and to speak very personally to Reverend Jackson. I want to speak to him as a sister and as a friend, with the greatest respect and love for the brilliance, the courage, and the dignity that he's shown throughout this historic campaign. Jesse, if you can hear me over there, behind all those barricades and the cops and those walls and the exclusion and the racism of the Democratic Party, Jesse, you have brilliantly led us, unfortunately, to the wrong place, my dear brother. Your brilliance, your passion, your energy, and your commitment, which we, your people, need so desperately, has been tragically wasted. They were thrown away on a party that despises us. They were thrown away on a party that has no room for a black agenda or any progressive agenda, and that sees us only as votes, not as human beings. They were thrown away on a party that would never allow you, my dear brother, to be its candidate, no matter how well you did, no matter how well you minded your manners, no matter how well you modulated your voice, studied their rules, and followed their ways. They don't give a damn about you, Jesse Jackson, or your people. I tried to tell you, my dear brother, but you would not listen. I do not blame you, but I must speak the truth about what happened. You would not take me seriously. You wouldn't even respect me. You were polite. You didn't tell me not to speak, but you would not heed my words. You didn't want to hear them. Jesse, many people did not want to hear them. Now they're saying I was right, because they have seen for themselves. The Democratic Party is not a wineskin into which we can pour new wine. It is a poison, and we have been dying of it for many, many years. We cannot continue to drink it. So I say none of this in bitterness, nor in anger, nor to win anyone's sympathy. And I have no desire to say to my brother, I told you so. I'm speaking very, very frankly to those of you here tonight because I have something very important to talk with all of you about. I'm not into reconciliation. I don't care what happens to the Democratic Party. I don't care if they're unified, ununified. I don't care if the whole structure broke down today. And if I could bring it down, you better believe I would bring it to its very knees. So you need to hear what I have to say, all of you. The very distinguished and powerful, powerful people of this country. I love being with you. I am so thrilled to be out here in this heat when it's hot. I wouldn't pay anything to be inside of that place, nor would I accept any amount of money, anything. I am proud to be with the people of this country. We got a lot of work to do. They got the media, they got the money, and unfortunately, they still got a lot of our people's minds. And we're going to have to work everything that we got off to make a little dent in this country. And the Democrats and the Republicans ain't going to like it. As I was walking over, a friendly reporter, came over to me. This is the second time today. Somebody told me that someone in the NAACP, I can't remember from where, had said that I was connected with the fascist Lyndon LaRouche. This other reporter came over to me and said, Dr. Fulani, how are you responding to the accusation by the DNC that you are really a LaRoucheite? They are really desperate, ain't they? So I said, I don't. They need to respond to their relationship to Lyndon LaRouche, because every time he runs for president of the United States, he runs as a Democrat, not as an independent. But you see, they're desperate, and they will spread their filth, because one of the powerful things that they're frightened of is the coming together and the power of the people who are standing before me tonight. They know what we mean. But you see, for all the disunity and all the fear and all the garbage and all the words, they're going to come out of that Omni united. They're going to join hands and skip down the street together as if all of us had food on our tables and houses to go home to tonight. They may talk disunity, but no matter what their color is, the leaders of that party are going to come out united. The leaders will come out of that convention united in opposition to us. The question, my brothers and sisters, is if the people out here who are protesting and the many movements around this country, if we, the people, are going to be united. If we want to impact upon this system and this party that attempted to bring us to our knees, we have to be united. We have to go from Atlanta united. We have to do the same. That's been the whole purpose of this 3 or 4 day gathering for us. So I am an independent candidate for the presidency of the United States in 1988. I am because I believe that this is the year that we have the opportunity and the obligation to come together and make a statement. Not a symbolic statement. I ain't into symbols. They keep talking about how we should be so proud because this time around we got to conceive of a black man running for president of the United States. We should tell them to take their conceptions and they know what they can do with it. We ain't into symbols. We want power. We need to figure out how to use this very, very simple and powerful campaign to go for it, to cost the powers that be in this country something. We need to cost the Democratic Party the election this year. I can't hear you. I said we need to cost We need to make them pay for rejecting our agenda and for taking the black and progressive vote for granted. You know, it's sad because overnight, Reverend Jackson has been transformed by the white supremacist Democratic Party leadership from a loser to an elder statesman. In his new role, which is entirely symbolic, because that's the best you can be if you run as a black progressive within their party, Reverend Jackson has about as much power as the Queen of England. We need to do something about that, because with all of Jesse's passion, brilliance, and dedication, Jesse has now run his course, going as far as the Democratic Party will let him. Reverend Jackson's struggle was very important to us because it set a social process in motion. His campaign opened up all kinds of potential. The question is, are we going to take that potential and run with it, or are we going to let the Democratic Party have it? You see, what they're doing at this convention is they're shutting things down and shutting people up. They don't want to have any political dialogue. That's what reconciliation means. It means American people shut up. They're saying shut up about hunger in this country. They're saying shut your mouth about racism. They say don't you dare speak anymore about poverty because we're united. They're saying shut up to the homeless. They're saying shut up about a Palestinian state. Baby, they're saying shut up about money for aid. They want us to shut our mouths. Just the other day, I was on the street with some brothers. I just want to thank Dan Danner. Right on, brother.
Danner.
And the homeless community of Atlanta, who the Democratic Party attempted to take off the street because they wanted to clean the streets up for their folks, but we don't need the streets cleaned up for us. I was standing with some brothers outside a Food Line, and with, 15, 20 people standing on that line, the door closed, and men, women, and children were turned away, and they had not been fed. They were still hungry. And you know, it really hurt me to think about living in a country with the kind of wealth that this country has had and does have, and with the kind of energy from the people of this country that those people were turned away.